Good evening, good evening, good evening. Happy Sunday to you. We are so happy to come to you this evening with our Financially Fit little series. Is what is really becoming because you guys have asked some questions. You've asked us to different messages. So we thought, why don't we break down, hey Kirsten, why don't we break down what those 3 points were last Sunday? And so just stay tuned. Every Sunday we're going to come and give you a little bit more bits and pieces of how to become financially fit. So as you are hopping on, give us a wave, say hello, throw us some heart to let me know that you all can hear us. And we're so glad that you're joining us. I see Carla is on. Thank you so much. Hey there, Aaron. Nice to see you as well. So as we get started, my name is Jennifer Bell, and I am excited that you all are joining us. You guys know that I am on a journey of health and wellness, not only just in the body, but also the mind, the spirit. And today we're talking about financial health, if you will. And so many of us, hey Kevin, we need some guidance with that. And so from last Sunday's video, we just got some overwhelming responses, and we thought, why don't we break down those 3 points of being financially fit? The first one was getting out of credit card debt. So as we start today, y'all let us know some hearts, some thumbs up. Any questions, drop them in the comment. So as Jeff is explaining whatever his points are, I want to be sure that we can try to answer them as we're on live. So, are you financially fit? That is the question. Let me get my notes here real quick. Financially fit. We talked about 2 kinds of debt. Y'all, I didn't even know this myself. There are 2 types of debt that we're going to debts that we're going to talk about tonight. And is it good? Is it bad to have debt? And if so, how do we know the difference, right? And what can we do? Are there some tools to help us with this? So as we get started, I'm going to kind of ask him some questions. This is Jeff. Let me introduce Jeff as my husband. He's awesome. He was with us last Sunday. And because of his background and because of his education and what he did for the military for over 20 years, I say he's an expert. And let me just tell you, the things he's going to share tonight are the things that we practice. And I have recently started to really get a great understanding about credit cards and how they can help you and also how they can hurt you. So as we get started, Jeff, we're talking about the 2 kinds of debt.
Right.
Why don't you define or tell us what those 2 types of debts are and define each one of them?
Okay. The 2 different types, the first one is an installment debt, and the second one is what we call a revolving debt. Installment debt is a type of debt where the interest period or the period of paying it back is fixed. So as an example, a 36-month car note, you pay that off in 3 years. So a car note would be an example of an installment type of debt. Same thing with a mortgage or a school loan. It has a very fixed period of time that you pay it back. The second part is a revolving debt. That's the one that I would say typically people might have some problems with and issues with because it doesn't have a fixed period of paying it back. Those balances can roll over indefinitely. And so an example of that, of course, would be a credit card. So those are 2 different types of debt. So when you're going through and you're looking at your debt management, you want to try to categorize those things into those 2 different definitions. Again, installment debt and revolving debt.
So installment debt and revolving debt. All right, so those are the 2 types. And I think a lot of us, give us a thumbs up or drop a 1 in a comment if you understand that whatever kind of debt you have is either an installment debt or it's a revolving debt. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I have revolving debt that kept on revolving and kept revolving to the point where it was really choking me. So to be free of that is just, you just can't put it into words. So when we talk about these debt, Jeff, you talk about, you had mentioned to me about some debt can be good and some can be bad. So is it bad to have debt? I mean, can you explain it a little bit more?
Yeah, the way that I would define as far as having good debt, that would be the kind of debt that improves your financial condition. So as an example, if you're getting a mortgage, that would be considered good debt because eventually your house would start to appreciate. That adds value into your assets, and so that's a good debt. Education. So if you have a school loan, that would be another type of good debt because eventually with the education comes more improved chances for employment, to increase wages and things. So those are examples of good debt. Bad debt, of course, would be just the opposite. Those things that don't add to your financial basis, or the type of debt that takes longer than 2 years, or I'm sorry, not 2 years, 2 months to pay off. That would be considered bad debt. So when you look at the two different types that we've talked about, revolving debt and installment debt, revolving debt would kind of fit into the category of being something that's not good debt. Because typically it's things that we go out there, we're going to the restaurant to buy food and whatnot and stuff, or we're buying gifts and things like that, or just items that are nice to have. That's not really investments or the way that we're spending money that adds to our financial position at the end of a period. So that's not really good debt.
Okay. If this is making sense to you guys, give us some thumbs up. Let me see some hearts. So make sure you guys are still with us, because this is one thing I was sharing with Jeff earlier, is to make sure, because I'm telling you, my brain doesn't think like that in finances. So I want to make sure that you guys are catching it. Give me some thumbs up, heart. Awesome. Thank you so much. So you talk about the bad debt, and I'm reminded of a scripture that says, Proverbs 22:7 says, do not be a slave to the lender. And that's what that revolving, that bad debt, it really enslaves us, guys. It chokes us. I mean, it's like you can't come from under because you owe something, and they're going to come after their money. Trust me, right? So we talked about the two kinds of debt being installment debt and revolving debt. We talked about that there's good debt and then there's bad debt, right? So how do I decide, Jeff? How do I decide which debt? Let's talk about how we pay this off. If I have these two types of debt, how do I decide what to do first?
There's three different factors that we're going to talk about, I'm going to cover, and it really all depends on the individual as far as what their priority is. And so these priorities and what I'm giving you isn't necessarily set for everybody. It all depends on your situation. But a lot of folks just might have a very difficult time trying to get started in the game of getting rid of their debt. And so what I would say is find the smallest credit amount that you have. Let's say, for instance, you have $500 that needs to be paid off on a credit card, and go ahead and pay that one off. Sometimes that psychological victory needs to be had, and so that can kind of carry over that momentum, so a person can continue as far as paying their debt. So let's say, for instance, a person comes back and they say, "Well, Jeff, I just want to get started with this. I want to go ahead and get started in paying off my debt and everything else." Then I would look at the credit that you have that has the highest interest rate, and of course, the interest rate is really defined as your cost of borrowing money. So if you have two credit cards, one is paying 18% interest and the other one is paying 6%, then you want to go ahead and pay off the highest interest one, which would be 18% first. So you go ahead and pay that off, and then pay the next highest one that you have from there. So you have those two different options. And then the last one is, let's say, for instance, a person's coming in and say, "Jeff, I want to go ahead and clean up my debt because in the next couple of months or so, I'm interested in buying a house, or I'm interested in buying a car." And so this is where your credit score is really important. So what you want to do is you want to pay off your credit card, your debt that you've almost maxed out. Or let's say, for instance, you have a card that maxed out. So you want to go ahead and pay that one off first. And the reason being is because they have what they call a utilization ratio. And what that is that's really just a factor of the amount that you owe on your credit card compared to your maximum limit. So the closer that you are to 0 or 1 on that ratio, the better off that you will be on your credit score. So of course, what you want to do, again, like I said, find your credit card, the one that you've almost maxed out on, and go ahead and pay that one off first. And again, I only recommend that for those individuals that want to go back and make a short-term purchase here for a house or a car in the short term. So those are the three different factors that I would look at as far as paying off my debt. Again, going back and looking at the highest interest rates, paying those off first. maybe paying off the one that has the lowest amount so that you can kind of have that victory, just having this done. Hey, I've got one credit card done, I got it paid off, now I'm ready to go to the next one. And then the last option is paying off those that have the highest balances on them if you're going to be making a house purchase or a car purchase in the short term so that you can improve your credit score.
So that would be improving the credit score. I just wrote this down. So how important is it to even know? Do you guys know your credit score? Drop a 2 in the comments if you know your credit score and what is considered a good credit score. Do you know that? I think that's kind of important. If you don't know, drop a 1 in the I said a 2 in the comments if you know your credit score. Awesome. Kirsten, you better know it. That's our daughter, y'all. And that's the other thing with sharing everything that we're sharing. You want to help your children, your adult children, your soon-to-be adult children, not to fall into this credit card hold, if you will. So we're talking about being financially fit. Those of you that are just now joining us, thank you so much. Please let us know where you're watching from. And if you're watching the replay, because we want to be sure that we answered your questions and say hello to you as well. So knowing your credit score, is that important?
Oh, absolutely. And again, we were talking about this last week. Credit is important, because you do have some large purchases where cash is pretty difficult to have to go pay for a house with cash or a car with cash. And so, credit is very important to have that. And so making sure that you're responsible with your credit is really what they're looking for. So it's important that you manage your credit wisely so that you can have the best credit report and the best score that you can possibly have. So if you don't know your credit score, then I would encourage you to go back and do that. Take a look at your credit report, and there might be some discrepancies on there as well, some things that need to be corrected and fixed. And so you want to make sure that you have a good understanding of that. And making sure that you're financially sound. So yes, it is very important.
Very, very important. So make sure you know your credit score. All right, let's kind of recap. Thank you so much for hopping on, Brittany and Melissa. We're talking about being financially fit and understanding the 2 kinds of debt. Debt can be good, and also we know debt can be bad. And how do you decide how to pay off your credit card debt first? So go back, and if you want, you're watching the replay, watch that. So now, we just wanted to come on, and I think we're going to do this for a couple more Sundays in a series because we last Sunday we talked about the 3 ways of being financially fit. And so we're going a little bit deeper each Sunday to break down those 3 points. Today was about credit cards and debt. So now that it's time for you, take care of your finances. Right. Become financially fit. It's not too late. It's not too late, right? Because you can't slay the giant if you pretend that he's not there. Credit card can be a giant to some people, but you can't ignore it. So we're trying to just share with you all some tools to help slay that giant. Just slay it. So if you found some value in what you're listening to today, last Sunday, please let us know. You have any questions about what you heard today, be sure and post it in the comments, and we will be sure to address it again. And I think we're going to come back next Sunday. Next Sunday, we will be talking about breaking down how that second step of being financially fit. Stop trying to keep up with the Joneses. Now, if your last name is Jones, we're not saying that. But, how do you stay and live within your means and enjoy where you are? So that's going to be next Sunday. You want to be sure and share this video. Have those your friends to join us next Sunday. And then Jeff's going to talk to you about some tools that we can use to do just that. Living within our means and enjoying life. Living within your means doesn't mean I can never have this, I can never do that. Right, Jeff?
Right, absolutely.
Any closing remarks?
No, just really excited about this series. And so just encourage you all to, again, like Jennifer mentioned, send in your questions and things like that, because, we're really here to help provide information to you, so we want to make sure that we're doing that as well. So just really excited about this because, again, if you can grasp a hold of the finances,
yes,
it can just open up the windows for you and so that you're not held bondage to credit and debt and everything else. You have the freedom to be able to go out and do the things that you want to be able to do. And so that's what this is all about. So really excited about this. Again, looking forward to next week in the following series. So definitely encourage everybody to come back and listen to what we're going to share with you.
6 o'clock next Sunday. And as you were hopping on, thank you. Hey, Cynthia. Hey, Latrice. Thank y'all for hopping on. And be sure to let us know questions that you have. Give us some hearts. If you're finding value in what you're hearing, let us know. Share it with someone else to join us next Sunday at 6 p.m. And we're going to be talking about not necessarily getting rid of the Joneses, but you don't have to keep up with the Joneses. Run your own race.
Right. Right.
When it comes to being financially fit. And being financially fit, there comes this certain aura of freedom. It really, really, really does.
Absolutely.
So thank y'all so much for joining us this evening. Thank you, Jeff, for your expertise.
Yep,
and we look forward to seeing you guys next Sunday. Y'all have a blessed Sunday. Have a great week. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.